This week we shall have another airing of Embassy Row, where we bring to you the ambassadors of different countries with diplomatic relations with the Philippines, with the objective of the populace getting to know them better. Tonight we get to meet the ambassador of New Zealand to the Philippines, His Excellency Ambassador David John Strachan. Good evening, Ambassador Strachan, and welcome to Business and Leisure.
Good evening and welcome to the New Zealand Embassy.
To start off, Mr. Ambassador, and with your kind permission, please allow me to go back a few years to when you spent your childhood in New Zealand. Tell us, please, what was your childhood like?
Well, you're really going back more than a few years, but I was educated in a Catholic primary school in the deep south of my country, in the province of Otago. And in those days, even more than now, I think sport dominated New Zealand society, and you might not think so now, but I was a pretty fast runner at the time. I was good at athletics, and I was also pretty good at rugby, our national game. So my schoolhood days, there was a lot of sporting activity, but I was also very interested in current affairs. And as a small boy, I had an interest in stamp collecting, and I remember in 1968 making scrapbooks of various world events, including some tragic events involving the assassination of Martin Luther King and Robert Kennedy.
What about your education? Kindly tell us, what were your interests then?
No, I think from a young age, as early as 7, I was interested in world affairs, and I remember the 1967 Arab-Israeli War was for me a source of fascination, and I asked my uncle to tell me all about the tactics involved and what was happening in that war. He was a veteran of World War II, so as a young boy I was always very sensitive and aware about world events.
And when and how did you embark on government service?
I began my service in the public sector in 1983 after completing my postgraduate degree at Otago University. I entered what was then known as the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Wellington.
You embarked on your diplomatic career in 1984 and served in regions like Asia and North Africa. Would you care to tell us more about these postings, please?
Well, my first posting was Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia, and that was a wonderful 3 years, starting from 1987. And I think I became very fond of the Southeast Asian region. And in fact, most of my career has been in Southeast Asia, although I've had other postings as well. I've also been posted in Jakarta, which was a wonderful 5 years. I greatly enjoyed that. I've been posted in Port Moresby in Papua New Guinea, a fascinating country where you've got 15% of the world's languages within the boundaries of one nation state. And then in North Asia, I've been posted in Seoul, which was also a great experience. And then my first posting as head of mission was in Cairo in 2011, and I was cross-accredited to Libya, Algeria, Morocco and Tunisia. So that was during the period of the Arab Spring, years of great turmoil, and also for an ambassador, a very exciting period to witness.
You were sworn in as New Zealand ambassador to the Philippines in 2014. Can you tell us about your first impressions of the Philippines, and how about now after almost 2 years in the country?
Well, actually my first impressions of your country was back in 1987 when I came as a tourist. That was soon after the People's Power Revolution of the preceding year. And so I noticed when I came back in 2014 how the middle class had grown to a much bigger proportion of your society. I noticed Port Bonifacio Global City here, which was something that was a very advanced architecture and town planning, city planning, that was quite different to what I experienced in the past. I mean, I still think this is a land of great contrast, but the one thing that remains common is the welcoming and warm nature of your people. So there's no difference there. So I'm really delighted to be in this great country.
There has always been some measure of affinity between New Zealand and the Philippines. Can we talk about how we have enhanced our trade relations in the last 2 or 3 years, for instance?
Yeah, I think the word affinity might be going a bit too far. I think we've got that now, but I'm not sure if we always had it. I mean, I think that there's this word that we use a lot with people that we're very close to. It's, intimacy is in the relationship now where perhaps it wasn't in the past. And the reason for that is that now we've got a very sizable Filipino population in New Zealand, and that's the springboard for enhanced trade and economic cooperation. The Filipino community in New Zealand is the fastest growing community of any ASEAN country in New Zealand. It's about 1% of our population. They're well integrated and they're very good citizens, and we're delighted to have them. So that's an important aspect of the trade and economic relationship. In addition to that, we've got direct air service links with your country. PAL have established a service last December, and I'm delighted to say that in December of this year, Air New Zealand will establish a direct flight between Manila and Auckland. And if you look at other aspects of the trade and economic relationship, student numbers last year from the Philippines to New Zealand increased by 60%, and tourist numbers are increasing by about 18% annually. So all very healthy indicators of a relationship that's on the way up.
There are two things that Filipinos value most, and these are education and sports. Now, on education, are you aware of enhanced programs or scholarships between our two countries?
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, because the Minister of Foreign Affairs in New Zealand has been very keen to extend the number of scholarships that are available to Philippine students coming to New Zealand. Each year we have now 24 scholarships in 3 main sectors. They are in agro-industry, in disaster risk management, and in renewable energy. And I can tell you that for those 24 scholarships, we've had over 2,000 applications for next year's intake. So, I mean, that suggests that there's a lot of interest in students here going down to New Zealand and getting an excellent education.
Can you tell us about the national sport in New Zealand? Do you think we can embark on sports programs centering on this sport to benefit both countries?
Yes. Well, we don't have government-to-government sports programs, but I can tell you that I think a lot of your viewers will know that New Zealand is famous for its haka, the war dance that our national rugby team, the All Blacks, perform before they go on to the field. They are the reigning world champions, and rugby has been our national sport from the very early years of our existence. So we're very proud of that, and I'm delighted to say that a New Zealand coach is actually involved with coaching the Volcano team here. So there's that link on sports. And furthermore, I can say that in basketball, the New Zealand Tall Blacks will be coming to your capital in early July to play in an Olympic qualifying round with 5 other teams, including your national side. And you know, it's quite interesting that the former coach of the Tall Blacks is now coach of the Philippines. So I think that basketball is another area where there's a lot of connections.
On the leisure side, what destinations in the Philippines have you visited?
Yeah, well, I've had the privilege of going down to Boracay a couple of times, and that's been a wonderful experience, as well as the beaches around Cebu and Iloilo. And I'm very much looking forward to going to Palawan later this year, and to see the underground river and to see some of the beautiful beaches in that part of your country.
I'm glad you enjoyed those trips, Mr. Ambassador. Now, how do you think can we further promote travel and tourism to the Philippines?
Well, I already mentioned the direct air link, and I think we have to do a lot more to promote that. And could I invite your viewers to come along to Glorietta 3 in Makati during the period 20 to 22 May, where there will be a major New Zealand trade fair, and we'll be promoting New Zealand tourism, education, as well as New Zealand products, which will be on sale. So come along, because there's also going to be some lucky prizes, including a return airfare, or 1 or 2 return airfares to New Zealand, sponsored by PAL.
New Zealand is not yet on the top of the list of the average Filipino tourist. How stringent are your visa requirements? How do you think can we help promote travel to your country?
Yeah, well, I think it's just raising awareness of what we've got to offer, because we have got some of the most wonderful scenery in the world. But New Zealand is also a very dynamic country. I mean, I think a lot of young Filipinos in particular know about the Hobbits and Lord of the Rings. So New Zealand is not just about sheep and cows, but there's a lot more to us than that. And you know, as far as stringent visa requirements, well, we're about the same as most other countries like Australia and the US, that we do have standards that have to be met. But if the paperwork's in order and you know, you can satisfy us about your bona fides, then there's no reason that you won't get a visa. Yeah.
Finally, Mr. Ambassador, do you have any message to our viewers? The camera is yours.
Well, I think I'm a lucky ambassador because I've arrived here during a time of positive growth in almost every sector of the relationship. We're even seeing a lot of contact now between young entrepreneurs in both sides of the relationship. This year is the 50th anniversary of New Zealand's relationship with your country. And you know, 50 years is usually a sign of maturing in any sort of relationship. So I would invite your viewers to seriously consider sending some of your kids down to New Zealand for world-class education at competitive prices in a safe environment. And I hope that an increasing number of Filipinos will take the opportunity of traveling to New Zealand and enjoying God's own country.
Well, that rounds up this short interview, and let me take this opportunity to thank you for guesting on our show.
Thank you.
You have just met His Excellency David John Strachan, Ambassador of New Zealand to the Philippines.